Can you ring up any slower, old man? Snapped a frustrated customer one Saturday morning. Saturdays at Walmart were always bustling, and this irate customer seemed particularly impatient. Roy, the floor manager, had finally reached his limit with her ongoing rudeness towards Stanley, one of their most loyal employees. Roy Sanders, Walmart's floor manager, was responsible for keeping the store running smoothly. Saturdays were typically the busiest, with families and busy moms stocking up for the week. While the store occasionally dealt with difficult customers, Roy didn't subscribe to the notion that the customer was always right. He believed that some people intentionally cause problems just to score a freebie or a voucher. Among the employees, there was one who was loved by all. Stanley Barnes, the oldest employee at 80 years of age, had pleasantly surprised Roy when he began working there. Stanley had proven everyone wrong with his kindness and friendliness, making him a great cashier. However, Roy disliked the idea that someone his age was still working. But before we start, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any new stories. Stanley responded perfectly to Roy's question about working at his age. Keeping active at this age will prevent me from meeting my end sooner. In addition, I enjoy working here and get paid for it. Customers always lined up at Stanley's checkout till because he was a character. Whether talking to children, teenagers, or someone his own age, he always engaged in friendly banter. However, there were some who were not as friendly. There were days when the staff had to deal with customers who were always making a scene for some reason. It didn't matter whether someone was kind to him or not. Stanley was kind to everyone. Stanley just smiled as Roy observed people hurling snide remarks at him. This treatment, however, was not reciprocated. The rude teenagers who came into the store to purchase something often warned him that he wasn't going to live long. After hearing how disrespectful the younger generation was towards the elderly, Roy became infuriated. The way they treated Stanley made his blood boil. The attack on Stanley felt like an attack on Roy's flesh and blood, as Stanley was a father figure to him. The situation had gotten out of hand this time. Everyone watched in disbelief as the scene unfolded. An irate woman was pushing her cart with all her force towards Stanley's till. The trouble began here. "Are you still around, old man? It's surprising they keep you around. I'm amazed at how slow you are. Please provide me with these items as soon as possible. Trying your best, of course." Stanley smiled and started ringing up the woman's purchases. Her loud voice naturally drew a crowd, which was exactly what she wanted. It seemed like she had some kind of grudge against Stanley or elderly people in general. She would not stop with her snide remarks toward him. When did it become okay for slow old people to take jobs away from young, energetic people who are struggling to find work in this day and age? Do you think that's okay, old man? By now, a considerable number of people had gathered to listen to what was going on. Some people had their phones out, recording the scene the woman was making. Stanley just continued ringing up the items one by one while the woman spewed hateful comments. He was a nice guy, but everyone could see he was hurting. Roy watched the scene unfold from a distance, his blood boiling with anger as the woman continued her verbal assault on Stanley. Roy decided he couldn't stand by any longer. He walked briskly towards the scene, determined to put an end to the woman's cruel words. "Excuse me, ma'am," Roy said firmly, stepping between the irate customer and Stanley. "I understand you might be in a hurry, but there's no need to speak to our employees in such a disrespectful manner." The woman was taken aback. She never expected someone to intervene. Well, someone had to say it. "This old man is holding up the line. I have places to be. Why don't you hire younger people?" Just as the situation seemed to be diffusing, the store manager, Mr. Powell, arrived on the scene, alerted by the commotion. He had a reputation for being strict but fair. Mr. Powell's stern voice cut through the tension. "What's going on here?" he demanded. Everyone turned to see the manager standing there, surveying the scene before him. Roy quickly explained the situation, recounting the woman's disrespectful behavior towards Stanley. He emphasized that he had intervened to protect the employee and maintain a respectful atmosphere in the store.
Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more heartwarming stories.
After listening to both sides, Mr. Powell turned to the irate customer and said, "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to either treat our employees with respect or leave the store." Then the real story came to light when the angry woman blurted out, "I want to know why my son didn't get a job here. but you gave a job to this old man. My son is 22 years old. He deserves a chance." It was now clear that her anger had nothing to do with the speed of service or any other trivial matter. Mr. Powell, maintaining his professionalism, responded calmly, "I understand your concern, but our hiring decisions are based on qualifications and experience. We don't discriminate based on age. Stanley has been a valuable asset to our team." The woman's face turned redder and she seemed to be at a loss for words. The customers who had been observing the entire spectacle were now shaking their heads in disapproval. Realizing that she was unlikely to get the reaction she wanted, the woman finally huffed, "Fine, but I'll be writing a letter to corporate about this." With that, she hastily pushed her cart away and stormed out of the store. The tension that had filled the air began to fade, and customers gradually returned to their shopping. The rest of the day went by without any more incidents, and Stanley continued ringing up customers with his usual warm smile. Those who had witnessed the earlier scene showed their support by choosing to go through his checkout line. The next morning, as Roy entered the store, he noticed a letter on his desk addressed to him. It was from the woman who had caused the commotion the previous day. Intrigued, he opened it and began to read. In the letter, she expressed her regret for her behavior, admitting that her frustration had clouded her judgment. She shared that she had spoken with her son about the importance of patience and the value of earning opportunities through hard work. She also thanked Roy for stepping in and promised to treat employees with respect from now on. Roy couldn't help but smile as he finished reading the letter. It was a small victory, but it felt like a step in the right direction. Perhaps, in the end, the irate customer had learned a valuable lesson about respect and empathy, and Stanley could continue his work with the dignity he deserved. Roy even considered reaching out to the woman to put in a good word for her son with management. After all, kindness didn't cost a thing.